Regional Resident Survey. We're back now to page 63, item 15.
So Mr. Broadley's going to take us through this, which is a useful bit of work that happens every 3 years that Drew manages. So we thought it would be informative for council to get a bit of a sense of what the survey is telling us. So, Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. Good afternoon, Chairman, councillors. So I've got a few slides here. I'll be brief. So you have the paper there. I don't aim to take you just straight through the paper. That could be a little boring for you. So I'll try and pull out a couple of other points from the survey that I hope will be of interest to you and won't take up too much of your time. In terms of background for the survey, the methodology is as read, 500 residents using the same methodology that we used in 2013, and we've now taken it that we'll run this every 2 years. There was a lapse, so it was held in 2005, 2008, 2013 and 2015. And the 500 odd residents that were randomly telephone surveyed give us overall a 95% confidence level in the numbers that are generated that you'll see in front of you, plus or minus 3.5 to 4.3%. Okay. First questions that we ask, just to get a sense of what the awareness is of the role that Regional Council has, or what the penetration is in terms of Hawke's Bay Regional Council. So when you think about the environment in Hawke's Bay, which organisation do you think of? Now there is some confusion out there, but fortunately well over half of those questioned thought immediately of us without any prompting. And then the confusion obviously is there, and it persists, and I think it always will. But in terms of that confusion, you've got other groups in other, which was still 11.2%. You've got groups like Forest and Bird, Fish and Game, Greenpeace, and the Green Party, in fact, which some people reference. So I guess some people have very little to do with what we do and how we do it, but that's as it is to be expected. But generally, a reasonable, I should say, level of knowledge in terms of the role the Regional Council has, and pretty consistent with the information that we gathered in 2013. Perception-wise, what do people actually think that we do? And a lot of them feel quite sure that we focus quite strongly on water management and environmental management. Again, quite a few don't know or have lots of other ideas as to what we do. And then beyond that, into the roles that we've taken on in terms of services and infrastructure, transport with the provision of public transport, and then rating quite high there the land, parks and countryside, so the regional parks network that we manage and administer on behalf of the community. So again, probably not too many surprises there. Yeah. This is the key slide really. So this is more satisfied, and this is more important. Okay. And so the key thing to note is that for all of the services that were referenced, we sit in the upper quartile, where the community largely are very satisfied with the work we do, and also rated as being important within the Hawke's Bay regional context. So that to me is a really positive piece of information, and it sits elevated to what we saw in the last survey in 2013. This in itself is a really great positive piece of news. So I'm really pleased with that. Of the community surveyed, so 3/4 of people that we asked actually had nothing to do with the Regional Council in the past year. So 3 out of 4 people don't have anything to do with us, and then beyond that, we've got a much smaller group to work with who do actually have some dealings with the Regional Council. So I guess that's to say, there is a little bit of apathy within the community. There is actually only a small sector of the community that actually do have a lot to do with the work that we do and are fully aware of the scale and scope of what we do. Most recent dealings with the Regional Council, there's an array there from the core ones, and I apologise it's small, rates, land care and environmental management, waterway quality and water level monitoring, water resource consents, resource consent applications, animal pest control, flooding and drainage, land management, chemical and pollution control. So those are the key areas that the community have interacted with the Regional Council on. That total number is 118 out of the overall 500. So again, a smaller subset of the overall group. Of the other reasons for contacting the Regional Council, this is really just 33 people's various responses broken down. Where you'll see green arrows, this is effectively where the Regional Council does have a role, and where there aren't any green arrows, then it's nothing to do with us. So if someone, I think one there I can see is my artwork. Okay, no, we don't have anything to do to be able to help you around your artwork or dog registrations or having a broken cable. But obviously people have some have a very wide-ranging view as to what a council or the Regional Council will do. Long, thin deal. No, it sounds like somebody misheard something. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a range of reasons. So I won't stick with that. Overall, the satisfaction that the Regional Council dealt with the query. So the number's 115 of the 500, and of that 115, 71% were satisfied, and 28% were dissatisfied. This is the area that I look most closely at, because I think the good story is the good story. That's great, but this is actually where you start to get some interesting information that you can look at and delve into and analyse and see where we can do things better. So 7 out of 10 people very happy, but 3 out of people were unhappy. Some of them will have a whole range of reasons as to why they'd be unhappy, but it's really important to look into that information and see how we can improve what we do.
Can I just ask, do you have a breakdown of that?
I do have a breakdown of that, yes. And some of it, I'll just grab it. Some of that information rates from, so under totally dissatisfied, too much red tape, or we don't care enough about the aquifers, and so, some of these are quite general comments, given that it was a telephone survey. To someone's specific response, I didn't get any financial support, couldn't get an appointment, didn't change my address, didn't receive my rebate. So I think I would just pull these all together and look at the ones where I think we can actually make an improvement. But effectively communicate these through to the relevant sections of the council, and we can look at what sort of work programs or workarounds we need to put in place from there.
I'll just make a response to that. Having been involved in polls and polling for 30 odd years, the key thing you look for are trends, and that's the only thing that all of that I read that had any interest to me was that the trend line for dissatisfaction is consistently upwards. Now, whatever reason's driving it is immaterial to me. The trend line is dissatisfied. See, it's just over the period of time, the trend line is going up. That's what I think is the only thing that was worthwhile noting. You get a trend, you've got a problem.
Noted.
And it might be, you can dig around all of the different basic things underneath it, but there's a perceptual problem here.
So moving to how the community received their information from us. And so in orange was 2015. The website we're seeing is a really key channel for us to communicate with our community, and it's good to have that validated through this piece of work. Telephone, slightly diminishing, and I mean, you can read it there for yourself. Newspaper articles, staff brochures, advertisements, word of mouth. So largely the tools that we are still using are the tools that the community are happy for us to use. So again, that's the information in a similar way. Post and mail, the best tool for us to use, emails and the website, brochures, articles, advertisements.
If I can just take you back, it's interesting that the people you surveyed are saying, yes, the best way is post and mail, but your future customer is the social media customer.
Yes.
And we had this wonderful presentation at the conference from Kevin Roberts, and he just absolutely binned all of what you're saying there, and he was very adamant that the best way to engage with your customer is to get them interacting with you and, you know, responding over the social media. So I wouldn't take that as gospel based on trends that are really in reality happening throughout the world.
Yes, I mean, I think you're aware we are putting a lot more attention on social media and digital media, and this council has quite a commitment to digital by default as we move forward. But I guess in saying that, we've also still got a lot of rural ratepayers who still have significant problems, and they don't have anything more than dial-up to work with. So, yeah, we're still trying to broker all of that.
I took considerable notes, so I'm happy to share them with you.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But also the Hastings district councillors that I was sitting with for the day were so captivated by the presentation, they were going to try and get him down. So if they do, we'll see if we can team up and repeat it for the council.
I think there are different tools certainly for urban and metropolitan markets than for perhaps provincial a little bit, although it's a conversation that we regularly revisit to make sure it's the right tool that we're using to get to the stakeholder or resident or what have you. Yeah.
Drew, just a quick question. Talking about trends before, the 500 people that were phoned, they were phoned on landlines?
Yes, they were.
I mean, there's a great number of people now who are ditching their landlines and just going straight cell phones. And those are the ones that are actually, you know, leading the trends in social media and so forth. So the people you might be getting on the landline are maybe the old school people. So I wonder whether that also comes in the reflection of...
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, grumpy ones from Havelock.
Just a little bit of focus on our place. So this is obviously the newsletter that goes out to ideally every homeowner in the region, distribution issues aside. And so we're still getting quite a strong rating there in terms of the interest level that we're getting back from our place. And again, we're still continuing to focus on delivering that as a printed document rather than an online document, although that does come around for review every now and again. Perceived value of services from rates. So yeah, there's a story here. Overall, the numbers, those who felt they had acceptable, good and very good value, and overall, those numbers, sorry, reference back to where I am. Thank you, you'll get there before me. Thank you, 76.8, 76.8% overall. But yeah, obviously, and we do expect them, there are comments there around very poor and poor value, which I also am looking into as
Question, am I right when we're looking at the trends that it looks as if the poor value is trending downwards? Good point, eh?
There you go. And I did look at that information, and largely when I sort of drill down into it, I think the focus for those comments on poor and very poor value related largely to cost, to lack of specific services that perhaps members of the community were after, or to ongoing concerns around environmental issues, disputes or issues that they may have, or just that they were unhappy or dissatisfied in general. And visually, what were the other main perceived roles of the regional council in the region? There was a whole lot of verbatim comments that came through that really sort of covered the scope and the breadth of the role that we have within the region. But yeah, overall, I think there was some revalidation of I think. As with the last survey, in terms of the importance and the satisfaction levels that we saw in 2013, and yeah, there's also some good information that we can take away and workshop with staff.
Right, further questions?
I just noticed on the first page of your report, the graph at the bottom there, I looked at those environmental issues, and I saw that fracking, or a concern on fracking, just about dropped off the radar completely. But then that surprised me. But then I looked, and I thought that most probably the 2013 result most probably was around the time when they had the symposium, and there was a lot of media coverage on it. Would that be your read on it as well?
It is very topical. Yeah, so the survey was carried out in April, and obviously it will reflect on what was the last 8 to 12 months or more so in people's minds.
Thank you, councillor Scott. We have a seconder for that. Thank you, councillor Pipe. Wish to speak?
I think overall it's a very good survey. I'm pleased that staff are noting those points where they want to delve into the detail to find out where we can improve services, and it's a good tool to see that we undertake ongoing improvement in our customer services and relationships.
Thank you. Seconder? You're good. Other speakers? Councillor Dick.
Should go to the staff for this result, but it also occurs to me that it would seem that most of those 500 people will be voting to keep the regional council in a few weeks' time.
No, it was a Hastings survey. Hang on, order. Other speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Monthly work plan looking forward. Thank you, Drew. Page 67. A range of activity there. And
Well,
you're in the hot seat. not
I'm in
me.
the hot seat, but I think as punishment for the other group managers not being here, questions I can't answer or that we're just going to have as follow-up, sorry. So I'll do my best on the areas that I can cover, but if there are questions outside of my mandate, I can't. Correct. You're absolutely correct. Outside my knowledge, I guess.
Mandate versus knowledge, I think, is a slight confusion. Councillor Pipe.
I don't know whether you can help, but just on the wastewater treatment down there in Central Hawke's Bay, I noticed that the clarifiers, the second one was going to be working by the 24th of July. Have you had any reports back that it's going and working? I know it might be a bit early at this stage.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to have to check. I know it's on site and being plumbed in. Whether it's operational yet, I'm not sure. So I don't know, and I'll find out and I'll let you know. Sorry.
Good question. No, councillor Scott, Hewitt.
Thanks, Ian. I really appreciated this. I thought it was a robust, good report. I'm just wondering on your page 72 whether you have a date for the councillor workshop, because getting it in the diary early is helpful. Economic development.
I'll find out and let you know. Make sure the dates are circulated well in advance. I don't know what the date is. I'm sorry.
Okay. And just on future dates, there was another event that they mentioned yesterday. I can't even remember what it was now, but I thought, that was something. Hill Country.
Oh, yes.
A couple of days. Can we get those dates circulated?
Hill
too,
Country
please?
Symposium.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Scott.
Questions. First one's on the first page of this, page 67, with regard to the regional pest management plan. Have we got a timing for that process, and will that take into account the work that was already done by the group that started considering this?
No, I don't know, and I'll get Mike or Campbell to
Yeah,
let you
fine.
know.
And if I could turn to page 71 with the Napier City Council district plan change 10, we're unlikely to appeal. Is that because we're satisfied that our concerns were met through that process?
Gavin's not here, is he? No. Sorry, I'm not involved in this work, so I will find out. Sorry,
Thank
that's Napier City Council.
It
Unlikely,
says unlikely
you're
to,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that means that in the decision that our concerns were
Can I
met.
suggest just an email update
Yeah.
to councillors, and
Yeah.
Mr Moorhead would be good. Yeah.
And the final one was on the online mapping tool, Pataka, which I thought was a really excellent tool. How was this received by the RTC workshop the other day? Was it presented to them then?
To the which workshop, sorry?
Did they not have a workshop instead of the meeting?
To the Regional Planning Committee?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, they didn't
No.
have that either. Okay, so they
No, but
haven't
you're right,
read
it is
this yet.
it is a very good tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just be interested to eventually get some feedback on it.
Further questions? Councillor Grant.
Yes, Chair. Ian, you can answer this one, which is good.
Yeah.
The tomato mushroom thing, 12th of August. What are the chances of us doing a deal before that?
I think there's huge scope there to come to a reasonable negotiated settlement, and that's what I'm still actively pursuing. Yeah. So I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to prejudice our position or his, but
Good chance.
nonetheless, I'm working hard on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Someone happy to move that we accept that report? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Seconded, Councillor Dick. Further discussion?
In terms of the Central Hawke's Bay sewage water, is it true that they were filled up from there today?
Just the other side of the table, Mr. Moorhen, the other side. So it's all good. Have one on that. Okay. Can I deal with the Chairman's monthly report? I'm going to ask Council's indulgence here that we leave that on the table for the simple reason that very little happened in July, as is normally the case. 2 weeks of school holidays to start with. But I'd like to do more work in a report on Comvita. We visited Comvita as part of the local government tour, and but to make it more worthwhile to colleagues, I'd like to get hold of their latest annual report, which is fascinating reading. It's an incredible company, and because we do have we are in a very small way a partner with them, I think it's worth a conversation. So if I could move that we leave that report on the table this month, I'd be much obliged if that met with favour. Someone happy to second that? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Okay, now let's go back to mine items not on the agenda. Councillor Bevan.
Thought it would be appropriate to give councillors an update on the Coastal Hazards Committee, which met last week and received a presentation from Richard Reinhold Hamill from Tonkin Taylor, which is the company which has been engaged to do the technical work supporting the committee's deliberations. What they've done is mapped where the boundary of the sea will get to in 50 and in 100 years' time, with elements of probability in it. So that information was presented to us in a workshop. It's going to be peer reviewed by an Auckland professor, and that peer review information will be available at the next committee meeting in September, after which it is our intention in one form or another to release that information to the public and to come and make presentations to the participating councils, which of course are Napier, Hastings and ourselves. Perhaps just one other thing to report, which is that there are two other pieces of research that are currently being done on this coastline. One is the one that's being done by the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, and the other is the one that is being conducted by GNS with input from local iwi. There are some concerns that we might end up confusing the public with having three pieces of research being put into the public arena within a relatively short period of time, and they may well say different things. So we're endeavouring to find out what we can about those other two so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page with the information the public sees. So I think we can expect perhaps to see as one of our agenda items some more detailed update in perhaps September or October.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. As present at that meeting, that's a very useful update. Thank you. Councillor Hewitt, Upper Tuki.
Just as noted on page 67, the Upper Tuki scheme review's been progressed. So we had our first meeting of a small working party group last Thursday, the 23rd of July. So just keen to report that, yes, work is on track, and Laddie Cooter is doing a really fabulous job. He's been very well received by the locals, so if you could pass that on, thanks, Ian. And I'll continue to keep you up to date.
Thank you. Very useful. Okay, now let's, we've got a set of publicly excluded minutes to deal with before we finish. So is someone happy to take us into public excluded? Thank you, Councillor Bevan. We have a seconder in the form of Councillor Scott. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. carried. We'll be